Hi, everyone. It is still April 22nd, 2021. Everything I am about to show you is related to the communist takeover of the United States. Oh, boy. It's hard for me to say that because I think of my former friends. They're rolling their eyes if they actually heard me say that. But the roll of the eyes, is not based on any research they have done. It's just this arrogance in them that they think they know without doing any research. It's the height of stupidity. So I want to play this video once again of the founder of Black Lives Matter and listen closely to what she has to say.
The criticism is helpful. I also think that it might, I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
Ideological theory of Marxism. She's a Marxist.
To the gentleman from Ohio.
A trained Marxist. The BLM founder is a trained Marxist. Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with Black lives. It has everything to do with Marxism and bringing in, well, communism. Whole lot of people love to call it socialism. Socialism is just the last step to communism. So I don't know if any of you caught this interview. BLM co-founder Patrice Cullors claims her $3.2 million real estate splurge was an investment into Black people, specifically her family members, so she's not betraying her principles. If you don't know about the scandal that, did we hear any of that on mainstream media? I don't think so. The Black Lives founder, Black Lives Matter's co-founder, has, 4 homes, was looking for property in the Bahamas, bought a home, a mini mansion in Topanga Canyon, which is a very white community. And that cost don't quote me on the number, but I think $1.2 million. Well, here she is explaining her purchase of homes.
So from the left, that would say, if you are a trained Marxist, if we're talking about a certain kind of radical politic, that extravagant homes of any sort or multiple properties of any sort is itself contradictory to the ideology that you hold. And so it's not about having money per se, but that it's about, or about property per se, but it's about there being a potential contradiction between your expressed politics and your lived practice.
Sure, and I think that is a critique that is wanting, and I say that because the way that I live my life is in direct support to Black people, including my Black family members, first and foremost. And for so many Black folks who are able to invest in themselves and their community, they choose to invest in their family, and that's what I've chosen to do. I have a child, I have a brother that has severe mental illness that I take care of. I support my mother, and I support many other family members of mine. And so I see my money as not my own. I see it as my family's money as well.
Nice explanation, wasn't it? Now, Marx wanted to destroy the family, and I think this woman actually was able to in her own right, her own efforts, her books that she wrote, make money off of this Marxism that she expounds. Interesting, though, that the money that she made via capitalism, she was able to buy those homes. And, well, here she is talking about her family. First and foremost is her family, that strong family. Geez, Patrice, why don't you get out there and talk about how necessary it is for all lives, but Black lives, their families. Concentrate on getting very strong families. Well, they don't do that at all. Okay, Patrice here, Black Lives Matter founder, mentored by ex-domestic terrorist who worked with Bill Ayers. Really? Okay, co-founder of the Black Lives Matter, Patrice Cullors, was the protege of a communist-supporting domestic terrorist for over a decade, spending years training in political organizing and absorbing the radical Marxist-Leninist ideology which shaped her worldview. Eric Mann, who mentored Cullors for over a decade in community organizing, was a member of radical left militant groups Students for a Democratic Society and the Weather Underground, which bombed government buildings and police stations in the 60s and 70s. And yes, also a close connection with Bill Ayers. Bill Ayers. Obama and Bill Ayers together from the beginning. Yeah. Obama, trained organizer, and Patrice Cullors, a trained organizer. And, well, is it coincidence that they had their training from the domestic terrorist group founders of the Weather Underground, Bill Ayers? Stanley Kurtz, a senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, spent a few days at the Richard Daley Library at the University of Illinois at Chicago, going through the papers of the Chicago-Edinburgh Challenge, which Ayers and Obama were involved in. He says that the Ayers-Obama relation runs more deeply than previously reported. This is back in 2008. So much information was being suppressed about who Obama was, who he had relations with, a trained organizer who is also, well, I posted in my last video, a man who has researched thoroughly Marxism and Obama, and said Obama is a very, very dangerous man for the United States of America. Okay, well, you can read about Obama's connection with Bill Ayers. So I also want to read the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. Abolition of property. Private property. Out the window. Patrice. Private property. Out the window. Oh, boy. The hypocrisy on the left is the stench of it. You just want to run away. You want to run away. Okay. Abolition of property and land and application of all rents of land to public purpose. A heavy progressive or graduated income tax. I hear AOC, and I don't want to hear AOC in my ear, but, well, the radical left scream about that heavy progressive or graduated income tax, abolition of all rights of inheritance, confiscation of the property of immigrants and rebels, centralization of credit in the hands of the state. The Federal Reserve, by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. Well, it sure does have that. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. All of this is coming to pass, and you know what? Right now, all of the agendas have, accelerated greatly. Let's just say, what's that saying? Push the pedal to the metal. Okay. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivation of wasted lands, and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with a common plan. That's one of the reasons why the United States government has centralized power and has taken over so much land, purchased, and I'm not sure of the percentage, but it continues to this day, and the United States government already owns a huge portion of the country. Equal liability of all to labor, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture, combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over the country. Free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factory labor in its present form, combination of education with industrial production. Maybe that's why Common Core had these kids reading manuals, government brochures and manuals. No joke. Okay, I also want to read before I go on. So just keep in mind some of what I read here, which are the 45 Communist Goals. January 10, 1963, Congressman Albert S. Herlong, Jr. of Florida read a list of 45 Communist Goals into the congressional record. Now, I'm not going to read all of them, but 11. Promote the United Nations as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed force. And we have been funding that force. Capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. Well, they certainly have captured the left. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. Gain control of all student newspapers. Use student riots to foment public protests. Infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writing, policy-making positions. Gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. Continue discrediting American culture by degrading all form of artistic expression. Eliminate all good sculpture from parks and buildings, substituting shapeless, awkward, and meaningless forms of art. Have you seen it? I sure have throughout the years. Control art critics and directors of art museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art. I sure hope that this is triggering memories in your brain. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, TV. You know that that's been going on. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and free press. Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy, regardless of your thoughts about homosexuality. There's a difference between the homosexual individual, homosexuality, and the homosexual agenda. The agenda is what I refer to and what I get really upset about. Okay. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the grounds that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. Discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, out of step with modern needs, a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis. And I will never forget, and it must have been about 25 years ago, that I'm reading in the New York Times, and I come across this editorial about the Constitution, how it's out of step, old-fashioned, inadequate for the needs of contemporary United States of America. And then my first read of this, and I was like, I always remember being so kind of shocked by what I was reading. Okay. Discredit the American founding fathers. Present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. Present them as racist. And therefore, they are not to be respected and to be done away with. Get rid of all of the statues and everything that reminds us of our history. Okay. Belittle all forms of American culture and discourage the teaching of American history on the ground that it was only a minor part of the big picture. Obliterating the American past with its antecedents in principles of freedom, liberty, private ownership, major goal of the communists. Support any socialist movement to give centralized control over any part of the culture. Education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics, discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. There's been a lot of discrediting of the FBI, and more. Okay. So, the schools have been taken over. And I think that most of you will agree with that if you have any knowledge of what the schools, public schools, but also colleges, universities, higher education, what it has become. The infiltration has been full and complete. So, everything that is taking place right now is textbook communist takeover. New bill will make it a crime punishable by jail to tease or insult cops. What? Kentucky. The taking away of private property has been going on for many, many years. So if anybody thinks that the communist takeover will happen overnight, it has been incremental for decades. It's been going on for decades and only getting worse. But civil asset forfeiture, where the police can take your property, take your money, take your cash, and you don't even have to be arrested for a crime. they can actually take, well, if they pick somebody up, claim that they're, I don't know, selling a joint, they can take your parents' property in many states. And that has been going on for a long time. And there's many other ways. Eminent domain. Cities, states, federal government taking people's property, taking people's land because the government wants to do something with it. And the violation of, the eminent domain laws, the corruption is so thorough. So Connecticut school shows second graders cartoon featuring erect penis. Wow. That reminds me. Give me your 4-year-olds, and in a generation, I will build a socialist state. Vladimir Lenin, who also said, give me just one generation of youth and I'll transform the whole world. Degradation and a real attack on a nation's morality.
Children are afraid of stuff that's very difficult to talk about. For instance, some children are afraid that their mom and dad will beat them, or that their parents will fight. Other children have experienced an adult touching or putting their penis in the child's private parts or mouth, and they're terrified that this will happen again.
Even though I can be big and scary, remember, I'm just trying to take care of you and protect you from danger. Yes, but if you terrify me when I'm not in danger, I need help to stop you.
Do you think that's appropriate for a student in second grade? Second grade. Well, guess what? It's not at all. It's not at all. 7 or 8 years old. Shown this cartoon. Short story about being scared during a virtual class on social and emotional learning. Don't you think that that's up to the parents, not the school's role? 10-minute film, often reserved for therapy sessions, shows 2 cartoon owls talking about terrifying experiences for kids, including stuff that's very difficult to talk about. What the hell? Greenwich School Superintendent Dr. Tony Jones. Okay, this has been going on for a very long time. This is just another example of what's going on in our public school system, and I'll get to the private school system, but here. Okay. A lesson plan produced by Philadelphia's Office of School, Climate, and Culture instructs kindergarten through second grade teachers to encourage students to discuss what happened to George Floyd and the goals of the Black Lives Matter movement. Anybody who thinks that this is appropriate, you are the useful idiot helping to indoctrinate these students, indoctrinate them towards the communists achieving their ends. And, well, if you know anything about what's happening, you cannot object. If you object, you get canceled. That's the environment that we have now. How did we get here? We have allowed incrementally all of the changes to take place without objecting. Few have been at the forefront for many, many years, but only few. The majority manifest reality in every society. Ask students. This is kindergarten. Ask students if what they know about George Floyd, if they know or what they know about George Floyd, about the trial, how they are feeling, and if they have anything they want to share about their feelings. Kindergarten. Show students this slide deck. Social story for George Floyd. Okay. If you'd like to prompt students to take action, kindergarten through 2nd grade, you want to prompt them to take action? Okay. This is the social story for George Floyd. George Floyd was killed by a police officer. Mr. Floyd was African American. The officer was white. For many years, some police officers have hurt African Americans. Do you think that this is appropriate for kindergarten and 2nd grade? It's not even appropriate for us because it's all indoctrination, and it's just not the truth. So the teachers are told to share a social story, presenting the case in racial terms. George Floyd was killed by a police officer. My God. Okay. Then, finally, the teachers are asked to discuss the pyramid of hate with the children as young as 4 years old. 4 years old. Pyramid of hate illustrates the prevalence of bias, hate, and oppression in our society. It is organized in escalating levels of attitudes and behavior that grow in complexity from bottom to top. Like a pyramid, the upper levels are supported by the lower levels. 4 years old. When bias goes unchecked, it becomes normalized and contributes to a pattern of accepting discrimination, hate, and injustice in society. While every biased attitude or act does not lead to a genocide, each genocide has been built on the acceptance of attitudes and actions described at the lower levels of the pyramid. This is how sick adults are in our country. The pyramid of hate, genocide, bias motivated violence, systemic discrimination, acts of bias, and biased attitudes. Well, this is happening all over in every Western nation, which is, well, doesn't that beg questions? What's happening here in the United States is happening in the UK, is happening in, well, Australia. An Australian cartoon Bluey knocked for lack of disabled, queer, poor, gender diverse, dogs of color, and single-parent dog families. Can't kids just be kids today? I guess not. Forcing beliefs upon children is abuse. And that is what is taking place. Taking place with children as young as 4. Yeah. Australia's top university instructs staff to call fathers non-birthing parent and mothers gestational parent. Boy, so much of what we are living right now reminds me of George Orwell's 1984. Yeah, we have to not offend those who do not identify with gender binaries. So you can't have a mom and dad. You have a non-birthing parent and you have a gestational parent. Nothing like breaking up the family, destroying the family. How did we get to this point? We have so many sick, very sick adults. So, get rid of mom and dad. Oh, by the way, we're doing it here in the United States as well. Aristotle and Plato must go, yeah. After targeting statues, race activists now aim to topple the ancient founders of Western thought. Well, because it was white supremacists who, Aristotle and Plato? Okay, white classics should be cut from university syllabi, as it's so entangled with white supremacy as to be inseparable from it. But depriving future generations of the wisdom of the past leads to ignorance and division. And it's easier to control people if they have no idea what their past is. In fact, Karl Marx, keep people from their history and they are easily controlled. There are so many, sub-agendas, and the communist takeover. It's so intricate, and it's so, the web, the spider web of it all. It has so many different layers. We're in trouble. So, Rich Lowry in National Review contains, he wrote an article. It is rare to find other instances of scholars so consumed with hatred for their own disciplines that they literally want to destroy them from within. Most people do not know about the communist infiltration and don't understand how it is that these scholars, these academics, will destroy their own discipline. Well, because they're not there for their discipline, they're there to destroy it. Okay, Boston Public Schools suspend tests for advanced learning classes. Concerns about programs, racial inequities linger. Oh. What's also interesting, people who are black should be infuriated with this agenda, because the agenda is saying you can't cut the mustard. You are, not as intelligent as white people, so we have to just get rid of the advanced learning classes so that we create equity. And I, for one, do not believe that that's true, considering how many Black Americans are scholars and so successful. How did they become so successful? How did they get their doctorates? How did they end up in universities teaching? How did they have such brilliant thinkers and scholars if they couldn't cut the mustard? It has nothing to do with equity. It has nothing to do with Black American students. It has everything to do with bringing in communism. Wisconsin parents on new social studies curriculum. Our children cannot escape leftist messaging. You are absolutely right. And you want to know why? Because parents didn't get involved. Some did. Majority didn't. They didn't care what was happening in the public schools, and they let this go, and now it is screaming loud that something's really wrong. Even if you don't know what the wrong is, it's screaming loud. We've got something going on, and it ain't about teaching, but it's everything about indoctrinating American students. The younger we can get them, the better it is. So, Huck Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird, classics, well, banned. California schools banned them. Well, we learn a lot from reading. Some characters in the book that we're reading, the protagonist or whatever, we identify with. You can actually have, emotional feelings as you're reading. Reading where someone gets hurt, you feel compassion. It's part of the human experience, teaching us how to be empathetic and, ban it all. We cannot have our children reading classics because what did those classics do to the other generations, the older generations? Oh, it made them interested in other literature. It didn't make them, screaming racists. But we've got to ban this because, people are just very sensitive today. Now, bad education. A Philadelphia elementary school forces fifth graders to celebrate Black communism and hosts a Black Power rally to free Angela Davis. Okay, this is abuse. Fifth grade teacher at the inner city William D. Kelly School designed a social studies curriculum to celebrate the political radical Angela Davis, praising the Black communist for her fight against injustice and equality. As part of the lesson, the teacher asked students to describe Davis's early life, reflect on her vision of social change, defined communist. The teacher led the 10 and 11-year-old students into the school auditorium to simulate a Black Power rally to free Angela Davis from prison, where she had once been held while awaiting trial on charges of conspiracy, kidnapping, and murder. The students marched on the stage, holding signs that read Black Power, Jail Trump, Free Angela, Black Power Matters. They chanted about Africa and ancestral power, then shouted, Free Angela, as they stood at the front of the stage. Now, the school's student population is 94% Black, 100% economically disadvantaged. Talk about indoctrination. academically, it is one of the worst performing schools in Pennsylvania. Don't you think there's something more important to focus on? By 6th grade, only 3% of the students are proficient in math, 9% in reading. By graduation, only 13% of Kelly's students will have achieved basic literacy, and that is not because of the kids. It has everything to do with the adults. And it's abuse. It's abuse. Here, this is amazing. The local teachers union produced a video denouncing the United States as a settler colony built on white supremacy and capitalism, which has created a system that lifts up white people over everyone else. Wow. I guess it's only white people here in America who are successful. One teacher at William Kelly, who requested anonymity out of fear of reprisals, expressed deep pessimism about the future of public education. I've come to realize that no policy hurts African Americans. I don't even like the term African American, because there's an awful lot of Black Americans who don't have any association with Africa. Okay, but hey, African Americans more than the public school system and the teachers union. The teacher is right. In absolute terms, the numbers are demoralizing. The school district of Philadelphia has 18,000 employees and a $3.4 billion annual budget, and fails year after year to teach the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. And as it turns out, the education is hard. Political fantasy, not so hard. Okay, this is not because of white supremacy. This is because those adults who consider themselves teachers are failing their students, failing those children, regardless of what color the teacher's skin is. They are failing these children. But all of this now is blamed on white supremacy. Nothing like teaching the young how not to take responsibility for anything. So this was the documents that they had. Black Communist Case Study, Angela Davis. An academic and revolutionary. My God. Well, public schools. It's amazing. Define communist. This is on their school walls. And here they are. This is such dangerous indoctrination. Teachers are now demanding Shakespeare be removed from classes due to white supremacy and colonization. And here another, I can't, you can play it, I'll link to this below, but Cartoon Network is excreting some of the wokest intersectional bile you've ever seen, and it's all aimed at 6 and 11-year-olds. Get control of communication and media. Biden, Fauci, COVID comms. Advisor locks Twitter account following expose of anti-Asian, anti-white tweets. Okay. Biden and his administration is filled with very, very sick and twisted adults. So, there is a woman who apparently is Biden's or Fauci's deputy digital director for COVID-19 response team. And She has locked her Twitter account so people can't see her racist tweets. Among the anti-white tweets exposed by the National Pulse were ban white people, instructing people don't get in a car with white people. These were tweets of hers, and insisting we truly do gotta get white men all the way out of here. Well, why don't you start with Fauci and Biden? Clarke Humphrey. I am filled with hate, but in a cute way. She's cute. Clarke Humphrey, a woman apparently, greatest online fundraiser in American history. Booked and busy. Oof, what an ego. I am filled with hate, but in a cute way. Yes, it is the liberals who are filled with hate, not the Republicans. Those who are screaming, those who are marching, Black Lives Matter, filled with hate, not those who are not marching. Self-avowed greatest online fundraiser in American history, Humphrey's current role in the Biden White House also places her on the same team as Fauci. What a surprise. Disgusting hypocrites are the Democrats. Now, I have said for 10 years, we have one party. One. But on the left, they present the teams. They've decided what role they are going to play. The left team is so out there, bringing in communism, destroying our lives, destroying the children's lives. Wow. And they're sick. And I'm sorry, Democrats who support this party, this team, wow. You need to take a look in the mirror and try to understand or ask yourself, what really am I supporting? The Biden administration says it can punish doctors and hospitals for sex discrimination unless they perform controversial gender transition procedures. Wow. The Biden administration just filed an appeal seeking to force religious doctors and hospitals to perform potentially harmful, no, it is harmful, the hormone treatment starting very, very young. That's a whole other video. But the harm that it does, the permanent harm, it's so outrageous that this is taking place. But it's so evil and it's in your face. And people can't see this. The Biden administration filed an appeal seeking to force religious doctors and hospitals to perform harmful gender transition procedures against their conscience and professional medical judgment and against the oath they take. Do no harm. Bad for patients, doctors. They can punish doctors and hospitals. My God. It's frightening. It is frightening what is taking place. And you know what? There's no escape unless Americans wake up. So, I'm going to pick up with a few more, excerpts from very good articles that I just have to post. But we're in trouble. We are in big trouble. Big trouble. And everything is happening so fast. Okay, adults, you get to decide how you want to live You want to live, like this empty, shallow, bullshit life? Go ahead and remain silent and do nothing. You want to live, supporting evil? Go ahead. You want to live willfully ignorant? You have the right. But nobody has the right to abuse children. No one has the right. I don't care if you are a parent. Everybody gets to say something if you are abusing your child. If you're a teacher abusing a child, everybody gets to say something about it. And what is happening now to children? Evil is the only word. I don't want to, candy coat, dilute, paint with nice colors. Evil is taking place in public schools right now, destroying all children, regardless of skin color. They are being destroyed. They are not being taught how to think properly, how to critically think. They're having their creativity, their individuality destroyed. And it's got to stop. It's got to stop. And it will only stop if all parents band together and get it stopped, but all adults now have to say no more, no more, no more. Stop supporting your sick and twisted Democratic Party. But come out of the matrix. Our government is killing us.